Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you this morning live on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube, on what is a very busy week. Football, baseball comes to the final days of the season and tries to make those last couple of cuts to see who's in and who's out as far as the postseason goes. Even a big one in college football this weekend, as Georgia and Alabama will tussle this Saturday night. So, a lot going on. Let's start with the baseball. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the game as I did last night, so it's out there. The weather has worsened as far as rain coming to the southeast, coming to the state of Florida, coming to the southeast. I don't know if they'll get tonight's game in. It's unlikely they get tomorrow night's game in. I don't know if there'll even be a window of opportunity today to play. You'd hate to see this pushed to Monday, but that could definitely happen. So leave the weather aside. And again, I understand and knew that as soon as last night occurred, and I talked about that game and how important it would be for the Mets for so long. Everybody knew that because they want to believe that this team is different, that this team is not going to get knocked sideways by the Braves in Atlanta again. And they go down there, and game one is exactly what they have seen 1,000 times. The Mets completely dominated by the Braves, who show pitching, power, defense, and show a culture and just a way of doing business that is successful, while the Mets crumble when they see the Braves. Now, all this team has to do to show that it's different is eke out a victory. Now, we might have to wait until Monday for that. One thing that's in the Mets' favor is there's two ways into this. They have a half-game lead on slumping Arizona, which lost again, blown out by the Giants last night. And Giants red hot. They are punishing teams, and teams that are trying to get to the playoffs, punishing them one right after another to finish the season. Diamondbacks have the Giants. They've lost 3 in a row. They have the Padres, who right now, after a win last night, know they're going to the postseason, as are the Dodgers. Can they make a run at the division? We'll see. But that team's gone. So now it's Braves, Diamondbacks, and Mets for 2 spots. The Mets have a half-game lead on the Diamondbacks, who've lost 3 in a row, and they have a game lead on the Braves. Now, if the Mets lose tonight, it would be even with the Braves. We'll see where it is with the Diamondbacks based on what happens with them. We'll see what happens as far as the game goes, but all they have to do is win one game. One game there. And they stop it. They stop it. And they'll head to Milwaukee. So we'll see what happens here. And again, the weather will play a big factor. As far as the Yankees, whether here tonight, they'll probably get the game in. Yankees need one win to lock up the division. We know they're going to the postseason. We know they're going to win this division title. What we see, though, time and again, is the Orioles, despite all their poor play, are not impacted against the Yankees. They beat the Yankees. They have no problem coming to Yankee Stadium and playing well. They have no problem coming to Yankee Stadium and winning, and that is something that you have to pay attention to going into the postseason. These teams are not afraid to play in Yankee Stadium. They're not intimidated to play in Yankee Stadium. The Yankees don't have any big edge at home. That's for sure. And that's, you tuck that away and take that into the postseason. Now to football, which will begin on Thursday night. A big one. Big one for the Giants and an enormous one for the Cowboys. The Cowboys at 1-2 and reeling. Absolutely reeling. Lamb with a fumble, with a drop, fighting with his quarterback, admitting he lost it on Sunday. But it's not just that. It's how this roster was put together. It's the head coach's future. It's the looming presence of Bill Belichick. It's also the fact that they cannot do the most elementary thing you have to do in football: stop the run. They cannot stop the run. Cleveland played with no tackles and no offense and still ran for 93 yards against the Cowboys. But the Saints ran for 190, and the Ravens embarrassed them for 274 yards rushing. And Henry said, hey, there's something really wrong with that defense. He even went out of his way to say it. Now, we know that. Add to that they cannot get the ball consistently to Lamb right now, and they don't have a running game. As a matter of fact, let's be honest, they don't have any running backs. What team has a worse stable of running backs than the Cowboys? Dowdle, Elliott, who's through, and Vaughn. That's it. What team would trade their backs for those three guys? They're at the bottom of the league running the ball. They're at the bottom of the league stopping the run. And when you do that, you are not going to win games. Now, all the Cowboys have had to do with Dak at quarterback is throw their stuff out on the field, and they beat the Giants. We all know it. They've owned them. That has to stop, and it has to stop now. Should the Giants be able to run the ball with Singletary, who's got to hold on to the ball? Yes. Should they be able to get the ball to Neighbors? Yes. Will they see probably a far more lethal Dallas passing game? I think they will. But they've gotten pressure. Will they continue to get pressure? We'll see. How much they have to blitz to get it, we'll see that too. But Giants have a great shot on a short week to beat the reeling Cowboys here. And if they do, now they're 2-2 going into their bye week. And things look a lot better in a division where Dallas would be 1-3 and Giants would be looking up at Washington and the Eagles. And the Eagles, if Dallas is going to have a tough season, could win this going away despite their own problems and despite the fact, as I told you when the season started, that the head coach was on not as firm a ground as you thought he would be, considering his record in Philly. And you keep hearing rumblings out of there that they will make changes. They do not let stuff simmer. They move. And a lot of rumblings that they could be in the Belichick sweepstakes. So I make the favorite Dallas for Belichick. But the Eagles are being mentioned as a possible suitor and someone who may go after him strong. Belichick is going to be back in the league next year. The question is where. And it could easily be in the NFC East. And no, Giant fans, I do not think it's going to be here. I think the head coach will be here. And if the Giants go in this week, they at least are going to have a better chance to win some games than a lot of people gave them credit for. So big on so many levels for the Giants to finally beat the Cowboys, for the Cowboys reeling right now. And when the Cowboys are reeling, everyone pays attention. When they're rolling, they pay attention. When they're reeling, they pay attention. Now, in this quarterback-driven league, there are a lot of quarterback issues right now, especially for such an early part of the season. What happens with Miami? Are they going to, and if they do, it will be a colossal blunder. If they stand pat, now we don't know if Tua is going to come back. We don't even know if the NFL will allow Tua to come back. Remember, they are allowed to make him sit out if they feel he could injure himself or suffer severe repercussions. They can tell him, you're not cleared to play. He has said he will play again this year. We don't know that. And I don't think Miami can act like that's the case. But remember, you're dealing with a team here that will implode. You're talking about a team that has a ready made skill set of big time offensive performers. Hill is not going to sit around for somebody who cannot deliver the ball. Waddle, Mostert, Ashawn. This team is loaded with offensive personnel. You got to get a quarterback in here who can pull the trigger. And Huntley is not the answer. It looks like he's probably going to play this week, but he's not the answer. Two places, it seems like they're not interested in Tannehill. So two places they can go. I think the logical spot, and I like him better than other people do, is go get Garoppolo. He's on the bench at the Rams. They could be enticed, especially considering their situation. I think they would move him. He could walk in, and I think he could do a good job. Remember, this is a guy who's taking the team to the Super Bowl, and if he hit a wide open Kittle on a 3rd and 6 play, he would have led his team to a Super Bowl victory. They hit that play, they win the game. They never forgave him for that play. He was wide open. He had him for the first down, and he missed them, and the rest is history. Kansas City went into a wild rally off the big Hill play, then a turnover, and the next thing you know, they've put up 3 touchdowns. What does Pittsburgh do now? They intended to play Wilson, had a calf injury. Wilson is not going to be happy there if he's not playing when he's healthy, and reportedly he's very close now. Fields has gotten better each week, and grudgingly, Tomlin has given him more praise each week. He's doing his job, learning how to win, all the stuff you expect from Tomlin grudgingly. But he has fit the offense a lot better than they thought he would. He's also a guy who can be their quarterback for a while. That is not the case with Wilson. Wilson would love to go somewhere where he has weapons and where he can play. Does he wind up in Miami? I don't know what the Steelers' plan is there. I don't know that they are mentally yet committed completely to Fields. But Garoppolo and Wilson make plenty of sense. And Miami has to move quickly, or that team will completely implode. And that coach, who was a darling a year ago, will be in big trouble. Now, if you go back 2 years and the way they finished up, people would have thought that Jacksonville was on its way to a big future. Now it has completely gone into a death spiral. They are taking players off the street to play defense, and they ask a lot of their defenders, especially in the secondary, where they play a tremendous amount of man-to-man. Number two, the quarterback got into bad habits when he played injured last year, and now he has gone into a slump. A lot of people are killing Lawrence like he can't play. That is nonsense that Trevor Lawrence can't play. Complete and utter nonsense. He's got one of the great arms in football. He's big and strong. He's played in big games his whole life. He's won his whole life. Anybody who gives up on Trevor Lawrence is out of their mind. Now, Jacksonville just gave him a huge contract. But, and I'm not telling you he's playing well right now, because he's not. But they're nuts if they give up on Trevor Lawrence. Absolutely nuts. Anyone who gives up on Trevor Lawrence is out of their mind. He is going to have big moments in this league. Now, Cincinnati at 0-3, I'll get to them in a minute, gets Carolina this week. And obviously they get an old familiar face in Dalton, who played great last week and lifted Carolina. Hubbard had a huge game. Carolina just buried Oakland, the Raiders, excuse me, Vegas. And now they get the Bengals, who are desperate, but they're also pathetic defensively. They can't get out of their own way. They're 0 3. They're 0 3, and their defense is awful. I mean, they had no idea against Washington and couldn't stop the run. They couldn't get them off the field. They completed every big play. They made every conversion, fourth down, third down, whatever it was, with Daniel's legs, with his arm, plays to McCarron. Just unbelievable how bad Cincinnati was. And at 0 3, going up against Dalton. Now, there's two parts to this. One, how bad Cincinnati is and what Dalton does to them this week. Number two, what happens to Young? Carolina is not going to go back to Young anytime soon. But this is a guy they traded up to get him at number one. Didn't take Stroud, took Young, and traded up to get him. They have a lot invested in this guy. I don't think they believe in him anymore. The question is, would they deal him? The first word was they said they wouldn't. Now you're hearing rumblings that they might. I think he stays put. I just don't think he sees the field barring an injury. He's going to sit and watch now for the rest of this season, unless something happens to the current quarterback. But think about the changes and what happens. Jacksonville is promising wholesale changes. I do not think that includes Lawrence. I'd be stunned if it did. I don't know what's going on there with that coaching staff, but that team is a complete mess in terms of personnel, in terms of preparation, in terms of motivation, in terms of everything. They did not show up defensively against Buffalo, and now everybody off that game is on the Buffalo bandwagon. But just a little word of caution. No one's saying Josh Allen's not a great player, and he is. He's one of the better players or best players in the league. But they have played Arizona, a completely beat-up Miami team, and a Jacksonville team that had no idea what end was up. Now they go to Baltimore. Huge Sunday night game. Baltimore coming off a win against Dallas. This is a big test. You want to show that this is going to be a big year? Let me see them dominate Baltimore. Now, the one thing about the Ravens have some issues on their offensive line, but they did rush the ball last week for 275 yards. And they have been bad against the run. They have not looked good against the run. So let's see how Buffalo plays this. And this is a very, very interesting early test. And for you, all the people who have jumped on, and I mean jumped on they've zoomed to the top of every NFL list. Everyone going crazy about him. Could be his best team. Could be this. Could be that. He's the MVP. Blah, blah. Hey, it's 3 weeks. And they really haven't played a good team yet. So let's just take it with a grain of salt at this point. Now, I'm not saying that offense doesn't look good, but like I said, let's see them play some good teams. And I can't wait for that Jet game in a couple of weeks on Monday night. That's going to be fun. A couple of weeks away. That's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Minnesota and Green Bay this week. We don't know yet about Love. Packers have done a good job with Willis at quarterback, but Minnesota, which has been one of the darlings of the early season, and Sam Darnold. Listen, it just shows you Quarterbacks need to find the right spot with the right coaching, with the right touch. I always thought Sam Darnold could play in this league. He clearly has the arm to play in this league. And now he's found a home. Does that mean this is Shangri-La and he's going to pull a Jim Plunkett? I'm not saying that for sure. But after 3 weeks, he's 3-0. He's got a big-time wide receiver in Jefferson. He's got a coach who believes in him. And he's got 8 touchdown passes and 2 picks in his first 3 games. Patience for some of these quarterbacks works. Look how many times people gave up on Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith was his own worst enemy. But he's found a team and a home. And they're 3-0. They go play Detroit on Monday night. So, Buffalo, how good are they? At Baltimore Sunday night. Seattle, unbeaten. At Detroit on Monday night. Minnesota, unbeaten at Green Bay. Minnesota-Green Bay is always an enormous rivalry. And now this game spiced up a lot. Hopefully Love plays because it'll make it that more interesting. 3 teams unbeaten that are winless. Cincinnati 0-3. Their defense is pathetic. Jacksonville 0-3 and people looking for the exit. Tennessee 0-3. And Tennessee should have beaten the Bears, could have beaten the Jets. They had punts blocked in both the first 2 games, and Levis has killed them with turnovers, and that's why they're 0-3. They weren't expected to be good, but they shouldn't be 0-3, and they are. You have Kansas City 3-0, and very fortunate. Buffalo 3-0, and very impressive. Pitt 3-0, playing very good defense and getting a good lift from Fields. Seattle 3-0, behind Geno Smith and their new head coach. And Minnesota and Sam Darnold 3-0. Some of those teams, they get to 4-0, 5-0. And what they thought about the season at one point changes radically in places like Seattle or Minnesota or even Pittsburgh. I know it's business as usual in Kansas City. They've won 3 very close games, and they've gotten some very good breaks. In the Cincinnati game, they got a big call. In the Atlanta game, they got an out. First of all, Raheem Morris did a terrible job running the game. He should never have thrown the ball at the end of the first half. It cost him 3 points. And he should have taken the field goal with 4 minutes left on 4th and goal from the 5. He wins the game if he does that. But on 3rd down of that series, Pitts was mugged. Absolutely. I guarantee Atlanta got an apology from the league. But you know what? It's not worth the paper it's printed on, because it means nothing. If they got a note or a letter or a missive, whatever it is, or a phone call, hey, it's small. It doesn't change anything. It's a small victory when you lose the game because of that. It should have been 1st and goal on the 1. He was absolutely mugged, and Kansas City got away with it. And Kansas City could have 2 losses, but they don't have any. Part of that is who they are. But they got to get the ball in the end zone, and they have to get some production out of Kelce. Now, I know my comments about Kelce got some attention, but listen, first of all, I said I don't know. I'm not close enough to know what's going on there, but from a distance, it's very obvious his life has changed dramatically. When you are traveling and making appearances with one of the most famous people in the world, every minute is under the microscope. What you wear matters, what you say matters, how you travel matters. And he's making a lot of commercials with his brother. He's doing a lot of different things. And very easy to get your eye off the things that made him who he was. Mike Krzyzewski and I had a conversation once about this, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "What happens is, with the success you have, you no longer have time to do the things the way you used to do them. That was the reason you had so much success. You no longer have the time to prepare properly. You no longer have the time to put the dedicated work into everything because you have so many other things that have come to you, which are in often blessings, but it affects your time. You're getting pulled in so many directions, and all of a sudden, you're not the same performer that you were because you have too many other things going on. Instead of preparing and doing the things that is necessary to be who you were. Kelce needs to get back to that. And when he does, I'm sure he'll be fine. But right now, it's not a big factor. And that's one of the reasons why they're not scoring touchdowns. That, now Pacheco's hurt. But with all of that, they keep winning. And that's a very big factor. Now, Wednesday means baseball boost. Our last one. I'm sure we'll have some stuff for you in the postseason, but this is our last one for the regular season. So we had hit a bunch in a row. I don't remember if we hit last week or not, to be honest with you. Okay? Let me see what today's is. All right, the last regular season Francesa baseball boost comes to you from Bet Rivers. Looking for a finish today, a strong one. Today's boost, Yankees, Orioles. So here it is. Yanks to beat the Orioles and Judge to hit a home run. All right, very simple. He's been on a home run tear. He's been streaking again now after that 16, 17 game drought. Now he's back hitting home runs. It originally was 330. Now it's plus 375. So a Yankee win and a Judge homer gets you plus 375 on the day. Go to the Bet Rivers app at betrivers.com and download the Francesa Wednesday Baseball Boost. Now, every week we tell you about the squares, okay? It is something that's right there for you. Now, players can play same-game parlays, which you guys all love. We know how popular. The same-game parlays are so popular that they even put them in the commercials now, everybody. Any same-game parlay that you play on an NFL game or a college football game, if you play a same-game parlay of $10 or more, you earn squares. Now, the exclusive squares game offers additional chances at profit boosts, bonus bets, and $10,000 jackpots. One of the people in the metropolitan area who won it, I think it was Labor Day weekend, won a $10,000 jackpot. So, hey, you don't have to do anything. All you got to do is play your same-game parlay, and boom, they'll light up that board and give you the squares. And if your square matches the final score, 0-9 here, 0-9 there, just like the Super Bowl box. And if you win it, who knows? Maybe you'll get $10,000, which is not a bad deal considering it didn't cost you 1 cent. Not 1 cent for that. That's not too bad. Okay? Now, let me set the rest of the week for you. We'll be on tomorrow night live after the Giants and the Cowboys. Somebody's going to be 1-3. Somebody's going to be 2-2 and either very relieved, that would be the Cowboys, or completely overjoyed, that would be the Giants. And somebody's going to be 1-3 and feeling very, very desperate. We'll see which way that goes. We'll be with you that, and then Friday with our Football Friday program. All that coming up. I'll also touch on Georgia, Alabama, which a lot of people feel Georgia has shown some vulnerabilities let's see what happens as they take on the Tide in what is an enormous game, the first big Georgia-Bama game without Saban in the process. So a different era for Alabama football, and Georgia trying to continue their winning ways, although they've been, slipped out of the top spot, which is fine. Not very important right now. As a matter of fact, I'd rather not be number one right now, to be honest with you. All right, emails. Emails at Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com. Let me get to some emails here and see what's on your mind. So remember, send your emails to Mike Francesa Podcast at gmail.com. Here we go. Phil, in light of his recent success, should the Jets have kept Sam Darnold? It's a moot point. They didn't. They did more to ruin his career than help him. And a lot of times, the one who is the patron saint of these kinds of quarterback stories is Jim Plunkett. Jim Plunkett was a national hero, a Heisman Trophy winner at Stanford, a great story, the first pick of the New England Patriots, and failed miserably. Total bust, a bum. Picked up by the silver and black, and you know the rest. Super Bowl hero, champion. So he is really the patron saint of the second chance or third chance quarterbacks. The guys who are big draft picks, who get bounced, who get their noses rubbed in the dirt, but then come back to get the final laugh, to achieve the final glory. So Plunkett is, like I said, the patron saint of those guys, and that's the saga of Sam Darnold right now. Wesley, do you think that a World Series with the Yankees and Dodgers would help advance the popularity of the sport? Absolutely. Baseball could really use a Yankee, Dodger, obviously the star players and what they would bring to the dance and how much it would be, very much a prominent showcase. I do think it would help a sport that, it's hard to say baseball. Baseball is not hurt. It's hurting nationally. It's hurting when you compare it to the NFL or compare its TV ratings. But it is a local sport that does incredibly well. I mean, in this town, I didn't see the final numbers, but I would think the Yankees and the Mets probably between them drew somewhere well over 7 million fans to the two stadiums this year. Think about that. Over 7 million people attended Yankee and Met games. That's phenomenal in one city. There are places where baseball is enormous, where it is a religion, but there are plenty of places where it's not. And I know it's going to take a while, but I was really sad to see the Tigers playing big games and seeing nobody in the ballpark. It just shows you it's going to take them a while. Now, it's been a long time coming, and they've really been a fascinating story this year, and I'm hoping they make the playoffs right now. If the playoffs start today, they're in it. But it's going to take a while for the fans to catch on, and that's what I liked about the Mets down the stretch. Early in the year, the Mets told me they were, a couple of people inside the organization told me that, we're not drawing at all. And they weren't. And a couple of times I went to the games and I was like, wow, And that's why I knew, it shows you how important the Yankee Met is, because that fills it. But down the stretch of the season, the fans have been there every single day. The Mets gave them a reason to come to the ballpark, and they did in droves. New York's a front-running town. It's an event town. And the Mets really caught on down the stretch, so it was good to see. But baseball is a game that does well in some cities and terribly nationally. AJ, I've been a diehard Steeler fan for 30 years. Josh Allen reminds me of Big Ben. If you were starting a team, who would you take? I would take Josh Allen, and they don't remind me of each other. Um, Josh Allen reminds me more of Brett Favre than anybody else. Big play, big athlete, big mistakes. Cut the mistakes out, and you have something very special. And right now, he's doing that very, very well. But he reminds me of Brett Favre a lot. That's who he reminds me of. Doug, Alonso seems to be a dud in big games. Is that enough to let him walk? I don't. Hey, listen, this year he has not hit in the clutch. We know that. He has in the past. He hasn't this year. I do think he's not going to be here next year. I think circumstances, a lot of things play into it. We'll talk about that later. I don't think he'll be here. But listen, Alonso will be all right. I don't consider him a negative at all. Rob, do you think Booneman is terminated if the Yankees have an early exit? Absolutely. I would be if they had an early exit. And remember, they're going to get a bye. So, what do you consider an early exit? The ALCS. They only have one series before the ALCS to win. What's an early exit? If he gets to the World Series, I think he's back next year. If he lost the here's what I would say: if Boone lost in the American League, I think he would be gone. I think if he reaches the World Series, he's back, win or lose. Acuna, could he play a similar role to some youngsters have for the Mets in the past? Yes, but don't ask too much here. The Mets need to get Lindor back to his position of leadership and back on the field. If they decide to put Acuna on the field, that's up to them. If they think that he can add something, and I would think you would have to be talking about the outfield. I hear he can play center field. You want Lindor at short. You want Iglesias at second. You leave Vientos alone at third base. You want Martinez to DH in a lot of big spots. If you want the kid to play center field, he could play there, but that's might be asking a lot. So I do think it's important that Lindor gets back on the field in his position of leadership. He's been the Mets' best player this year, and I think it's too much to ask Acuna to be the shortstop in these postseason games. I think Lindor, if he's healthy, needs to be the guy. We'll see you later.